Hello, friends. Today we delve into a family secret that has haunted generations. Meet Emma, a young woman determined to uncover the truth lurking behind her family's polished facade. As she sets the camera to record, a chilling reality begins to surface. One that might shatter everything she thought she knew. Watch closely. The sun dipped low, casting a warm glow over Emma's family home as she set up the camera in the living room. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, a weight that seemed to press down on her chest, but she pushed it aside. Today marked the start of her quest for the truth, and she felt a flicker of naive hope that these interviews might reveal the hidden fractures behind their seemingly perfect family facade. "All right, Mom, are you ready?" Emma's voice was steady, though inside her heart raced. Linda, her mother, sat on the edge of the couch, hands clasped tightly in her lap. She wore a strained smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Yes, sweetie, I'm ready," Linda replied, but her voice trembled slightly, betraying her composure. Emma felt a twinge of doubt. Was this really going to be as simple as she imagined? As she pressed record, Emma leaned in, her gaze focused on her mother's face. "Let's start with something easy. What was our family like when I was growing up?" Linda took a moment, her eyes drifting toward the family portrait hanging on the wall. The image depicted a smiling family, arms wrapped around each other, blissfully unaware of the cracks lurking just beneath the surface. "We were happy, Emma. We had our ups and downs like any family, but—" Emma interrupted gently. "But what? There must be more to it than that." A flicker of discomfort crossed Linda's face, and she cleared her throat. "Every family has its struggles, dear. We just chose to keep them to ourselves." Something in Linda's tone set off alarm bells in Emma's mind. Her mother's words curled around her thoughts, leaving a bitter taste. But isn't that just a way to cover things up? To pretend everything is fine when it's not? Linda's expression shifted, and she hesitated, searching for words. "Sometimes it's better to keep things private. Protecting the family is silence really protection, Mom?" Emma pressed, her heart pounding as she stepped deeper into the murky waters of their family dynamics. The air felt charged, as if they were teetering on the brink of something monumental. Linda's gaze fell to the floor, her fingers twitching as she fought an internal battle. "There are things you don't understand, Emma. Things that would change how you see everything." "Then help me understand," Emma whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her urgency. An image of the cracked glass vase on the shelf flashed through her mind. Fragile, beautiful, yet one misstep away from shattering completely. Linda finally lifted her gaze, tears pooling in the corners of her eyes. "I'm just trying to shield you from pain." But with each passing moment, Emma felt the distance between them grow, a chasm of unspoken truths. "But what if that pain is something we need to face together?" The silence thickened, heavy with the unsaid. Emma could sense the unyielding walls her mother had built over the years, fortified by secrets. But now she was determined to take them down. The family portrait loomed behind them, a perfect image of unity that felt like a lie. "Mom, is there a hidden threat to our family behind this normalcy?" The question hung in the air, both a challenge and a plea, echoing in the depths of their shared silence. As Linda turned her head away, Emma caught a glimpse of the locked drawer in the hallway, its presence a constant reminder of the secrets they harbored. Secrets that could either sever their ties or lead them toward healing. The camera captured Linda's profile, her expression a mix of fear and resolve. Emma's heart raced with the understanding that the journey she had embarked upon could lead to truths that might shatter everything she had known. The tension crackled like static electricity, leaving Emma to wonder if the price of honesty would be too high for her family to bear. The afternoon light filtered through the kitchen window, casting long shadows across the table where Emma sat, gripping her notebook like a lifeline. The air felt thick with unspoken words, a palpable tension that wrapped itself around her. Across from her, Robert leaned back in his chair, arms crossed tightly over his chest, a statue of stubbornness. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the soft ticking of the wall clock, each second a reminder of the time slipping away. "Dad," Emma said, her voice steady but laced with an urgency that belied her calm demeanor. "I need to know what happened between you and Mom. There's something you're not telling me." She glanced toward the corner of the room, where the old wooden drawer stood, its handle gleaming dimly, as if beckoning her to pry it open. The drawer had always held a certain mystery, a promise of secrets that had remained locked away for far too long. Robert's expression hardened, a flicker of something, fear or guilt, crossing his face before he masked it with indifference. "There's nothing to discuss, Emma. Your mother and I have made our choices for good reason." His voice was low, almost a growl, and Emma could feel the walls closing in around her. "But you can't keep pretending everything is fine. I know there are cracks," she pressed, leaning forward, desperation creeping into her tone. "Don't you see how unhealthy this is? How it affects all of us?" He shook his head slowly, disappointment etched into the lines of his face. "Some things are better left buried. You have to trust me on this." His eyes darted toward the drawer, and Emma caught the briefest hint of panic. "Trust you?" she echoed, incredulity rising within her. "How can I trust you when you won't even share the truth? What good is loyalty if it means living a lie?" The words hung in the air, thick with the weight of their implications. Robert's jaw clenched, the muscles twitching as if struggling to contain a flood of emotions. "This isn't about you, Emma. You're opening wounds that should stay closed." His voice trembled slightly, betraying the facade he worked so hard to maintain. "Then help me understand," she implored, pushing through the rising irritation that threatened to overshadow her resolve. "What are you afraid of? That I'll hate you for what I find? Or that it will destroy something you fought so hard to protect?" His gaze shifted to the drawer, the silence stretching again, more suffocating than before. Emma could see the conflict raging inside him, a battle between his desire to protect their family and the burden of the secrets he carried. "Some things are just not meant to be uncovered," he finally said, his tone softer yet still resolute. Emma felt the sting of anger mixed with a deep-seated sadness. But how can we be a family if we can't be honest with each other? Can we really save ourselves by ignoring the past? The question lingered in the air, unanswered, like a ghost haunting the space between them. Emma leaned back, feeling the growing distance between them. Robert's eyes narrowed, and she knew he was weighing his options, torn between the safety of silence and the dangerous allure of truth. As the ticking of the clock grew louder, she looked at the drawer once more, imagining the secrets it held captive. The urge to confront him, to force the truth out into the open, was almost overwhelming. But she hesitated, understanding the weight of what she was asking for. Could they really save their family without unlocking the door to the past? The question hung heavy in the air, lost in the tension that crackled between them, both unwilling and unable to bridge the chasm that had opened up, threatening to swallow them whole. The late afternoon sun filtered through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over the family portrait that hung prominently on the wall. Emma stood before it, her heart racing as her eyes traced the cracked spiderwebbing across the glass, distorting the image of the smiling family captured within. It felt like a metaphor of her life, an imperfect reflection of a facade that was slowly crumbling. "Look at this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper as she pointed at the fractured surface. The room was charged with a tension that hung thick in the air, almost palpable. It felt like a delicate thread, stretched too thin, ready to snap. Robert, her father, was seated at the kitchen table, his posture stiffening at her words. He glanced at the portrait, his brow furrowing slightly, and then quickly averted his gaze, focusing instead on the newspaper spread before him. "It's just a picture, Emma. We can replace the glass." But Emma wasn't convinced. "It's not just a picture, Dad. It's a symbol." The word hung between them, heavy with unspoken truths. "It shows how fragile everything is, how fragile we are." Linda, her mother, entered the room, her face washed in a mix of concern and dread at the sight of her daughter's growing agitation. "Honey, maybe we should talk about something else," she suggested, her voice trembling slightly, as if she were stepping on a precarious ledge. "No, we need to talk about this." Emma's determination flared, igniting a fire of suppressed irritation within her. "This picture represents everything we pretend isn't there. Look at it. Cracks in the glass, cracks in our family. How can we keep ignoring them?" Mark, her older brother, lingered by the door, tension coiling in his shoulders like a tightly wound spring. "Em, it's just a picture. We've all had our share of troubles." His voice was low, a careful attempt to mediate, but Emma could hear the hint of defensiveness beneath his calm exterior. "Troubles?" Emma echoed, feeling the weight of her frustration surge. "This isn't about a few troubles. This is about trust, ours, and how easily it shatters like this glass." She gestured sharply toward the portrait, her pulse quickening. "Sometimes," Robert interjected, a steely edge creeping into his tone, "it's better to keep some things hidden. We don't need to dig up the past." His words were a barrier, an attempt to maintain the fragile peace that had long since become a comfortable veneer. Emma's heart sank, but she pressed on, the thrill of confrontation mingling with her anxiety. "But what's the cost of that silence, Dad? What happens when it all comes crashing down? Is it really worth it to keep pretending?" The room fell silent, the air thick with unspoken fears and buried memories. Emma could see the flicker of tension in her father's jaw, the way Linda's hands trembled slightly as she wiped the counter, and the way Mark's eyes darted between them, caught in the crossfire. "Emma, please," Linda finally murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just drop it." But it was too late. The cracks were already visible, and the truth loomed like a shadow, threatening to engulf them. "Look," Emma said, her voice steadier now. "I know it's hard, but can't we at least acknowledge that this glass, this portrait, isn't the reality we live every day? It's a lie, and lies only lead to more lies." Her words hung in the air, heavy and unresolved. The question lingered uncomfortably, an echo of her thoughts. How fragile is the trust that binds this family? Emma felt the weight of the moment settling into the creases of their shared silence. The cracks in the glass reflecting the fractures in their bonds, waiting, yearning for someone to reach out and start the healing. The dim light of the living room cast long shadows across the walls, creating a suffocating atmosphere as Emma sat on the edge of the worn-out sofa, her heart racing. Her fingers nervously brushed the fabric, a subconscious attempt to find comfort in something tangible. The family portrait hung on the wall, smiling faces frozen in time, now felt like a mockery of the reality that was about to unravel. "Mom, can we talk?" Emma's voice wavered, the weight of unspoken words heavy in the air. Linda stood by the window, her silhouette outlined against the fading light, a picture of emotional turmoil. She turned slowly, her eyes reflecting a storm of fear and hesitation. "Isn't everything fine? We've always been a happy family, haven't we?" Linda's voice was strained, a hollow echo of the denial that had plagued their home for years. Emma could see the cracks in her mother's facade, the way her lips quivered as if struggling to maintain the fragile peace that had cocooned them all. "Mom, I know there's something you're not telling me. Something about Dad. Something that feels wrong." Emma's words hung between them, a fragile thread threatening to snap. The room pulsed with tension, a silent battle raging within Linda as tears pooled in her eyes. Finally, with a deep, shuddering breath, Linda stepped forward. "Emma, there's something you need to understand." Her voice broke as she struggled to find the words. "Your father, he made choices. Choices that changed everything." Emma's heart sank, the air thickening around her. "What do you mean? What choices?" The question slipped out before she could stop it, a desperate plea for the truth that had been buried for too long. "The affair." Linda's admission came out in a whisper, but it shattered the silence like glass breaking on the floor. "He had an affair with someone I thought was a friend. I thought I could protect you from it. From the pain." Emma felt the world tilt beneath her, her mother's words crashing over her like a relentless tide. The image of the happy family she had clung to was now nothing more than a mirage, fading into nothingness. "An affair? How could you let this happen? How could you keep this from me?" Her voice rose, raw and unfiltered, each word laced with shock and betrayal. "I was trying to protect you. I thought silence would shield you from the hurt, from the truth," Linda cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But it just kept eating away at us, at our family." Emma felt a whirlwind of emotions, a roiling mix of anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief that the truth was finally surfacing. Yet, the deeper pain of realization gnawed at her. "And now? What do we do now?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Can we ever go back?" The broken chain link of their family lay exposed, a raw wound that could not be ignored. The question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty, as Emma's heart raced with the realization that this was just the beginning of a tumultuous journey. The fragility of their bonds lay bare before them, and the healing she craved seemed insurmountable. Linda's gaze fell to the floor, each breath a struggle as she wrestled with the weight of her confession. "I don't know, Emma. But we can't heal without facing the truth." "About what, Emma?" he replied, the coolness in his tone a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside her. "Everything is fine." "Is it?" she pressed, her pulse quickening. "You keep saying that, but your everything feels like a lie. I've uncovered things that can't just be ignored." His eyes narrowed, and for a moment, Emma thought she saw a flicker of vulnerability. "What have you uncovered?" Robert's voice was low, a warning hidden beneath the surface. "Mom's locked drawer," she said, the words spilling out before she could second-guess herself. "The one you always told us to stay away from. I found it open, and I saw the letters. The secrets you've kept." Each word felt heavy, the weight of truth pressing down upon them both. He straightened, his posture shifting from relaxed to defensive, like a wall closing in. You shouldn't have gone through her things, Emma. That's private. Is it private? Or is it just a way to maintain this illusion of a perfect family? Emma felt the flood of frustrations rising within her, anxious energy morphing into anger. I need to understand why you're so afraid to face the truth. Robert's face hardened, and Emma felt a shiver of doubt creep in. You want to tear apart everything we've built? Do you think exposing our family's flaws will somehow make it better? You'll ruin us. Or maybe I'll save us, she retorted, her heart racing with both fear and hope. Maybe facing the truth can help us heal. The locked drawer loomed in her mind, a symbol of everything they had hidden away. She could almost hear its contents calling out for freedom, for acknowledgement. But could she really bring herself to break the lock? To confront the chaos that lay within? Robert's gaze hardened, and Emma felt a shiver of doubt creep in. Was it worth risking their family bond for the sake of truth? Don't do this, Emma, he warned, his voice low and dangerous. You don't know what you're asking for. I'm asking for honesty, she replied, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill. But if that honesty means destroying our family, maybe we were never as strong as I thought. The question hung between them, suffocating yet liberating. Emma's chest tightened, the weight of the moment threatening to crush her. As Robert turned away, she realized this was more than just a confrontation. It was a reckoning, a battle between the painful truth and the comforting lies that had built their lives. With every ounce of resolve she could muster, Emma took a deep breath, knowing this was only the beginning of her fight. The cracks in their family portrait were visible now, and she would not rest until they were acknowledged, until the locked drawer was opened, and the truth was set free. The atmosphere in the living room was thick with tension, the kind that seemed to press against the walls, silencing all sound but the distant hum of a refrigerator. Emma sat across from her mother, the soft glow of a lamp casting shadows that danced like unspoken fears. Linda's hands trembled slightly, her fingers running over the framed family portrait resting on the coffee table. A frozen moment of happiness that felt increasingly like a facade. The smiling faces trapped behind glass seemed to mock their current reality. Mom, I need to understand. Emma's voice was steady, though her heart raced. You've been so silent about everything. It's like there's this wall between us. Linda's gaze flickered to the portrait, and a shadow passed over her face. It was a moment where the weight of unspoken truths hung heavily in the air, pressing down on her chest. Emma, sometimes silence is easier, she whispered, the words barely escaping her lips. Easier for whom? Emma pressed, feeling the desperation in her own voice. For you, or for the rest of us? The question hung in the air, suspended in the tension of their shared history. Linda's lips parted, but no sound emerged. She was caught in the storm of her own thoughts, battling the instinct to shield her daughter from the truth. A deep well of anxiety twisted in her stomach, battling against the relief of finally speaking out. Linda choked on the words, her breath hitching as her defenses began to crumble. I thought by keeping things hidden, I was protecting you all, protecting our family. But Emma leaned forward, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But it's hurting us, isn't it? What's the point of protecting a version of reality that isn't true? The room seemed to shrink around them as Linda's resolve began to fracture. Her pulse raced, the walls echoing back to her the truth she had tried so hard to bury. She was not just the protector. She was a prisoner of her own making. Emma, please, she said, the tears spilling over as she faced her daughter. I'm scared. What if the truth tears us apart? Or what if it sets us free? Emma countered, her voice barely above a whisper, the vulnerability in it echoing through the room. Linda felt a shudder run through her, the walls she had built around her heart trembling at this new possibility. The thought that honesty could be a form of liberation rather than destruction. As the weight of her secrets threatened to crush her, she realized that the real danger lay not in the truth itself, but in the silence that had governed their lives for so long. The air around them felt electric, charged with the potential for revelation. Linda took a shaky breath, the dam inside her threatening to burst. I need to tell you about the things I've kept locked away. As she began to speak, the world outside faded, and the raw, vulnerable truth of their reality came crashing down like a wave. Each word was a crack in the facade, and with each confession, she felt the chains of her own silence beginning to loosen. But even as she opened her heart, the question lingered ominously in the air. Could they find a balance between protecting their family and embracing the brutal honesty that might shatter their world? The room was thick with tension as Emma sat across from Mark, her older brother, whose brow was furrowed with worry. The faint sound of the clock ticking on the wall echoed in the silence, punctuating the unease that hung in the air like a heavy fog. Mark's hands fidgeted, fingers tapping restless patterns on his knee as he struggled to find the right words. "Emma, I get it," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "You want to know the truth, but what if it breaks us? What if it shatters everything?" His eyes darted towards the family portrait hanging crookedly on the wall, its glossy surface reflecting a facade of happiness that felt increasingly disingenuous. Beneath that glossy exterior lay the fissures and shadows of a family on the brink. Emma's heart raced. "I can't keep pretending, Mark. I need to know what's been hidden. I can't just sit here and accept this lie." Her voice trembled, caught between determination and fear. The chains that bound their family together felt fragile, like a broken link threatening to snap under the weight of their silence. Mark felt the knot in his stomach tighten. He wanted to protect Emma, to shield her from the harsh reality that had wrapped around their family like a suffocating shroud. He could almost hear their father's voice in his head, urging him to maintain the peace, to avoid confrontation at all costs. But as he watched Emma's resolve, the inner turmoil grew. "You don't understand what could happen," he implored, his hands clenching into fists. "What if we lose everything? What if the truth destroys us? Isn't that better than living in a lie?" Emma shot back, her eyes blazing with a mixture of anger and desperation. "I'd rather face the pain of truth than continue living in this facade. We're all hurting, Mark. Can't you see that?" Her words hung in the air, raw and unyielding, a challenge to the very foundation of their familial bonds. Mark's voice cracked as he responded, "But what if the truth only brings more pain? We've kept these secrets for a reason. Shouldn't that mean something?" He felt the weight of the burden he was carrying, the knowledge of betrayals that had twisted their family dynamics into a tangled mess of guilt and fear. A long silence stretched out, filled only by the steady tick of the clock, a reminder of time slipping away. Mark's gaze fell to the floor, where the light from the window cast long shadows. The emotional distance between them felt insurmountable, yet he could see the flicker of hope in Emma's eyes, a desire for something deeper, something real. "Emma," he said finally, his voice softer now, "what if honesty doesn't bring us together? What if it only drives us apart?" He wished for a way to bridge the gap, to reach her and pull her back from the brink of confrontation. Emma's expression softened, but the fire in her heart remained unextinguished. Then we face it together. But we can't do that if we keep hiding. We can't pretend everything is okay when it's not. Her words were like a plea, a desperate call for connection amidst the turmoil. Mark felt the weight of the broken chain link bearing down on him, the symbol of their fractured trust and the possibility of reconnection that felt so distant, yet tantalizingly close. He wanted to scream, to break down the walls that had been built around their family. Yet he was paralyzed by fear, of loss, of chaos, of the unknown that lay beneath their secrets. The question lingered in the air like an uninvited guest, demanding an answer. Can family unity be preserved by hiding the truth? Or is it worth risking everything for the sake of healing? As Mark looked into Emma's earnest eyes, he knew that the answer and the path forward would not come easily. One thing was certain: the road to honesty was fraught with peril, and the stakes had never been higher. The living room was dim, shadows stretching across the walls like hidden truths clamoring for light. Emma stood at the center, her heart racing as she surveyed her family, each member a portrait of guarded emotions. Robert leaned against the fireplace, arms crossed, a fortress of denial. Linda sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers clasping tightly together, a silent plea for peace. Mark hovered near the door, torn between loyalty and the weight of unspoken words. "Can we just talk?" Emma urged, her voice firm yet quivering with emotion. "We can't keep pretending everything's fine. There's so much we need to face." A heavy silence followed, punctuated only by the crackling of the fire. Robert's gaze hardened as he shrugged. "What's there to talk about? This is our family. We've always handled things." Emma felt the crack inside her chest deepen. She wanted to scream, to shake him and force him to see. But how can we move forward when we're standing on a foundation of lies? Her voice cracked, the rawness of her pain spilling out. She glanced at Linda, her mother, whose gaze remained fixed on the floor, tears glistening in her eyes. "Mom," Emma implored, "we can't keep living like this. Don't you want to heal?" The tension in the room thickened, each word like a knife, cutting through the suffocating silence. Linda's shoulders trembled, and for a fleeting moment, Emma wondered if the truth would be too much for her mother to bear. "I'm scared, Emma," Linda finally whispered, her voice barely audible, laced with the tremors of unspoken sorrow. "What if exposing the truth tears us apart?" Emma's heart sank. Wasn't that the question that had haunted them all? She looked at Mark, her older brother, who had been silent, caught in the crossfire of their emotional turmoil. "Mark, please," she said, her plea desperate. "You've seen how these secrets have destroyed us. Can't you say something?" Mark swallowed hard, the weight of their shared history palpable in the room. "I want us to be a family," he said, his voice shaky but resolute. "But we can't be a family if we're just hiding behind a mask. We need to face what's broken." His words hung in the air, a fragile bridge reaching out into the unknown. Emma took a breath, courage swelling within her. "Then let's start here, now. Let's agree to be honest with each other. No more hiding." She glanced down at the cracked glass coffee table, a symbol of their fractured trust, its surface reflecting the light yet marred by imperfections. How could they build anything lasting on such fragile ground? As they all sat there, the air thick with unspoken fears and regrets, the reality of their situation loomed large. Emma felt herself teetering on the edge of despair and hope. She needed to believe they could rebuild something real, something strong enough to hold them together. "Can we do this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Can we start over, despite everything that's happened? In that moment, the question hung heavy in the air, a fragile thread connecting them. The past had left its marks, deep and unyielding. Yet here, in this space laden with pain, there lay an opportunity to transform that pain into something new. With a tentative nod, their eyes met, each filled with a mix of vulnerability and a flicker of determination. Emma could see the cracks in their foundations, but for the first time, she also saw the light shining through. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their truth, and with each step forward, they could begin to stitch together the tattered fabric of their family, even with the scars still visible. And as the family sat together, a fragile hope sparked in the space between them, a flicker of understanding that the journey ahead would not be easy, but it was one worth taking. The portrait above them remained, but its meaning began to shift, hinting at the possibility of a new narrative, one forged through honesty, vulnerability, and the shared struggle for healing.